So you've probably just received your sweet new trikon dragon hubs and maybe a shaft and other parts, and are wondering exactly how to set these up. First of all, you're going to have to take it off the handy dandy little rubber bandy thing. It's great for carrying it around, clip it to your bag and whatnot. And the hubs are designed to fit the three most common dragon shaft diameters: a full 1-inch shaft, or a 7/8 inch or 22 millimeter shaft. 1 inch is like 25 millimeters, or a 19 or a 3/4 inch shaft with different inserts. And probably came with them installed, but if you need to remove them or put them in, I'm sure how to do that. To insert one of the adapters into the trikon hub, you're going to want the closed end of the adapter to face the outside, which would be the outside of the hub, and hard to describe. And you want to align the seam that is in the adapter with the seam that's in the hub, which allows the hub to tighten and press onto the tube. And that's right where the bolt is. So it's easy to spot from the outside with the bolt, and you can see it on the inside. So you want those to be aligned, coming at it from the outside. And you'll notice it doesn't fit in unless you kind of overlap the two sides of the seam there. And then you can squeeze it into the hub. Get that nice and aligned. Push it all the way in. Then it's still going to be overlapped a little bit, and you want to get your finger in there, or if you have trouble with that, you could use a small tool, maybe like a key that was included, to massage that into place so the two edges are no longer overlapping. To put the hub onto the shaft, first you're probably going to want the bolt to be loose. It's a very tight fit on the shaft, even when the bolt's completely loose, so that it's good and snug and can handle all the hard use it's going to take. To make sure the bolt's completely loose, I'd actually recommend tightening it to the point where you can feel that there's a little bit of snugness, and then loosen it up just to the point where it feels totally loose. There's a tiny little bit of a gap. You don't want to go any further than that, because if the bolt comes out of the nut and then you put it onto the shaft, you might not be able to get the bolt back into the nut. The bolt's just long enough that when you fully tighten it all the way, it doesn't quite poke out the other side. So if we made it any longer, the whole hub would have to be bigger and it would be ugly. It's basically just long enough to do the job. So make sure that that's actually threaded in there, and loosen it up a little bit, and then put the hub onto the shaft. I like to start on the edge where the seam is, otherwise it can get kind of caught on the corner there. And you're going to push it on and kind of twist, and it can be a very tight fit. This one isn't too hard. I've put some on where, depending on the shaft size and the adapter and how much it's been used, it can be really tight to the point where, to get it the rest of the way on, you want to make sure that it goes on all the way. And to get it the rest of the way on, you can push it down on the floor, and I'll show you this on the table. Oh, that's going to mess up my sweet name. The spokes can flex, right? You don't have to worry about this amount of flexing. That's not going to hurt them. So just take it and literally pound it on the floor, and make sure that there's practically no gap between the grip and the hub. We actually put onto the fusion shafts a little black piece of shiny tape so that you can see if there's any gap there. If the hub's fully on, there should be practically no gap. If while you're using it, you start to see a little bit of a gap forming, check it occasionally, especially before each use, to make sure the hub's on all the way. Okay, before I put this other hub on, I just want to point out that the edge of your shaft, especially if you're using your own shaft, maybe you have a 3 Worlds fusion shaft from your Fire Dragon or whatever it is, they can often have a pretty sharp edge here on the edge of the carbon fiber or aluminum or whatever the material is, and that can actually cut into the hub. If your hub is getting loose and you drop it and it gets jammed at an angle, and then you try and push it all the way in, or you do another drop, that sharp edge, as this turns on the tube, can really cut in and damage the inside of the hub or the adapter. So if that is somewhat sharp, take some sandpaper and smooth it out. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And I'm just going to put the other hub on here, twist it on, and I'm able to get that on all the way, but just for good measure, make sure it's really solid and on there. So next, I like to line them up so that they're the same on both sides. And you'll notice that the hubs are mirror images, so they both face the same direction, and that's just because we think it makes sense. The key to getting the right tension or tightness on your hub has a lot to do with personal preference and use. If you're very gentle with your dragon, and or you like to take the hubs off every time you travel, say to hang them on your bag or whatever it is, you probably want to leave them about as loose as they get, because they're really quite snug just to start with. If they loosen up over time, or if you like it to be really solid and you're dropping and spinning really hard and you find that they're often twisting or working their way off the end of the shaft, you're going to want to tighten this bolt. So just to be clear, by default, you're probably not going to tighten the bolt at all. If you want to, we've included this sweet little key, and that fits into the bolt and it gets tight. And as you tighten it, you'll notice obviously it's going to start feeling tighter and getting snugger and harder to turn. And I would say, like, whatever your comfort level of how easily this thing spins is where you want to get it. And the time to stop is when the bolt starts protruding out the other side a little bit. You see it'll be hitting the 3D printed part and stretching it outwards. And when that starts sticking out a bit, you got it about as tight as it's going to get. And hopefully that's more than tight enough for your bolts. One more thing you want to check before you play is that your caps are properly installed. And this is actually important for when you're storing your staff as well. The snap caps that fit on the end of the tube have two buttons inside that snap into these holes. And if that isn't rotated into place correctly and they don't snap in, they're going to be pressing into your polycarbonate with quite a lot of force. And that small point force will actually cause stress cracking. So if you've ever seen flowtoys tubes that are all kind of cracked around the holes or cracked around the end of the tube, or even have a crack coming down off the edge, that's actually caused by stress fractures from time and pressure of those buttons not being in place right. So you want to make sure and give it a twist until those click into place, and then you'll never see any cracking there because polycarbonate is otherwise pretty indestructible and malleable. Yeah, so that's important. Make sure and put your caps on all the way. So removing the hub from the shaft is kind of the same thing in reverse, but if you're having trouble doing it just with the strength of your hand, you can use your feet. You can put this down and kind of put your feet on top of two of the spokes and twist the shaft and pull and get the hub off that way. Of course, loosening the bolt will also help if you've tightened it. So once that is off, we can talk about removing the insert. It's unlikely you'll need to do this, but if you are switching from one shaft diameter to another, or need to replace your inserts for any reason, the way to do that is to actually push one edge of the seam, because again, it won't fit through if the seam's aligned. So you have to really push, maybe even use the key if you're having trouble doing that with your fingers. Push one edge of that seam out so that they overlap, and then squeeze those together. So you squeeze the two ends of the seam together until the whole circle fits inside the hub, and then you can push and pull the insert out. Because of the conical shape of the flowtoys trikon dragon hub, it actually extends the length of your dragon out maybe more than you'd expect. Maybe the shaft that you ordered from us is a little longer than you actually want, or the shaft that you already have from some other dragon or whatever ends up being a bit excessively long once you've put the trikon on it and added that extra few inches on both ends. Whatever the reason, if you want to cut your shaft down, it's actually really easy to do. You get a hacksaw or any other metal cutting tool that tends to work great on carbon fiber, and you can actually just cut it, or if you want to make it really nice and clean, you can wrap a piece of tape around it and cut it with that. The flowtoys grip can be unwrapped. If you kind of massage off the end band, you can just unwrap the grip. If you have a center mark, you're probably going to want to cut it down exactly the same length from both sides. And then take a little bit of sandpaper to smooth it out. Rewrap your grip. Or if it's like the fusion hub and you have some extra space there, or just use a razor to cut off the extra tubular grip, then you can adjust the length of your shaft that way. If you're putting your trikon hub onto an existing flowtoys staff, there's a few things you're going to want to be aware of. One, you're not going to need to insert because the 1-inch diameter tube fits right on there. It is a very snug fit, and as a result, if you drop, the kind of momentum of one of the hubs is going to cause torque when the other hub hits the ground, and that can cause your connectors to come undone. It's going to pop those buttons off. That can wear out the buttons. It also means that the tube can work its way off while you're playing with it. So you're going to want to be really careful with that. There's some kind of hacks you can do to fix that. You could wrap tape around the end. You can actually put screws, drill a small hole and put some small screws straight into the carbon fiber where the holes in the tube are. Or you can contact us and get some screw shaft adapters that actually use screws here directly instead of the buttons. Of course, it will be much harder to remove the tube off the end of your shaft if you ever need to do that, say for travel or something. You're not going to want to do it often, but you still can. Durability. So the flexible 3D printed hubs are extremely durable. They're a solid print, they're very thick and beefy, but they can deform if pushed to their extreme, especially if stored that way over time. If you notice that your staff isn't standing up on its own very well, it may be that one of those spokes was just severely deformed, and you can actually just go through and kind of like flex them all and get them all kind of feeling equally flexy, and then it should stand up nicely again. What you don't want to do is say, for travel, I wouldn't tie all these together into a bundle. That'd be a bit far. Flexing it this far, no problem. That's going to bounce right back. Going past that starts to potentially cause a little bit of permanent softening of the material. It's not going to break, but it'll change the flex between those spokes. Modularity. So as with all flowtoys, trikon hubs have been developed from the ground up using interchangeable parts so that we can offer as many variations and enable you to get exactly the right flowtoy for you. Many of these parts are immediately and instantly modular. The vision is a little tougher. In order to really maximize the amount of light that visions put out, the vision core is a really tight fit inside this tube. The diffusion paper is somewhat fragile. Taking the vision core in and out or taking the tube on and off is not easy and not really recommended as a spontaneous thing, not something you're going to want to do for the weekend. But if you're upgrading, let's say you had capsule trikon and you wanted to upgrade to vision, all you're really going to need is these tubes. You could send them back to us and we can swap them out for you, and so you save a lot of money there, or you could just get the tubes. Replacing them on the hub is pretty tough. Undoing the screws is one thing, but actually getting them on and off the hub requires a lot of strength. It's an extremely tight fit so that you don't get dirt going up underneath the tube, and so that we can have the most amount of flexible spine and the most amount of light with the shortest interface that we could work out to still make a really good, durable vision trikon. Swapping out the capsules and the flow lights is super quick and easy, and in all of these cases, the caps are totally interchangeable. There's a small adapter for the flow light and a different adapter for vision to work with the button. Those come with the caps, otherwise you can get them if you don't have them, and you can use the caps that you already have on your trikon hubs and mix and match all these parts with all your other flowtoys.